环球教育展始创于2018年，作为一项公益大型展会，已成功举办了4届。参展院校超30余所，成功为广大身处国内外的同学们提供了对话北美优质教育资源的机会。2018-2019年的线下环球教育展吸引了近1000名学生和家长朋友们关注和前往，而2020和2021的 online 系列专场讲座也共举办了包括春季、秋季56场讲座，全年在线观看人数也累计高达64万。2022环球教育展由加拿大环球教育集团主办，环球国际高中、加拿大留学生协会承办，格伦堡国际教育深圳有限公司、格伦堡大连教育科技有限公司、格伦堡哈尔滨教育科技有限公司、炫智科技、绅士岛教育等单位协办。本届教育展，我们特别邀请到了多伦多大学、麦吉尔大学、英属哥伦比亚大学、麦克马斯特大学、女王大学、渥太华大学、戈尔夫大学、康考迪亚大学、劳里埃大学、多伦多都会大学、达尔豪斯大学、西蒙菲沙大学、安大略艺术设计大学、布鲁克大学、劳伦森大学等在内的20多所顶级名校招生官，带我们了解最新最准确的大学招生信息。同时还有校园生活、城市旅游、户外活动和当地的一些趣闻美食等等的分享，请大家持续关注。今天是我们2022环球教育展的第6站，本场讲座的嘉宾，我们邀请到了多伦多大学招生官 Mr. King Whalers 和特邀嘉宾主持环球国际高中执行校长 Alan， 就2022年申请季深度对话和讨论有关多伦多大学的最新录取要求及动态。更有独家消息放出，请大家千万不要走开。那么首先呢，我们先来了解一下多伦多大学。多伦多大学位于加拿大安大略省省会多伦多，在安大略湖的西北沿岸，是加拿大最大的城市，也是加拿大的政治、经济、文化和交通中心，著名的国际大都市，使得这里汇聚了世界上140多种语言，成为全世界最多元化的城市之一。多伦多连续多年被评为全球最宜居的城市之一，也是世界上最安全、富裕和拥有最高生活水准的城市之一。多伦多大学于1827年建立，是加拿大最早建立的高等学府之一。它早期名为国王学院，直至于1849年改为了现在的名字多伦多大学。那么大学呢，拥有3个校区，分别是主校区 St. George 和2个分校区，分别位于 Mississauga 和 Scarborough。那么 St. George 校区呢，位于多伦多的市中心，与密西沙加校区之间呢，每天都有班车来往，与 Scarborough 校区之间呢，也有公共的交通通勤，交通极其的便利。而受英国大学制度的影响，多伦多大学是北美少数实行独立学院制的学府。各学院在本院院务、教育、财政上都具有一定的自治权。多伦多大学位列2023 QS 世界大学排名第34位，2022泰晤士高等教育世界大学排名第18位，2023 US News 世界大学排名第18位，2023麦考尼杂志伊伯雷大学排名第2名。在学术研究方面多伦多大学一直处于领先位置，经费捐款、国家教授奖项、研究出版和藏书呢，皆为加拿大之首，杰出校友也众多。例如我们熟知的人道主义者、医学博士白求恩，加拿大总理、诺贝尔和平奖获得者 Lester Pearson， 中国力学及应用数学奠基人钱伟长，医学家和人造胰岛素发现者 Frederick Banting， 还有第1位加拿大籍女性宇航员 Roberta Bonder。那么在深入了解更多多伦多大学的院校之前呢，请让我为大家介绍我们今天讲座的重要嘉宾，拥有20多年国际教育经验，多伦多大学招生办主任 Mr. King Whalers， 同时也欢迎我们今天的客座嘉宾主持环球国际高中执行校长 Alan Song 来到我们教育展的现场。Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2022 Global Education Fair.It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our special guest speakers today. He's going to talk to us about university programs, admission requirements, and more to University of Toronto. Now help in welcoming the Director Office of Student Recruitment of the University of Toronto, Mr. Ken Withers, and our co-host, Mr. Alan Sung. Welcome.
Thank you, Cece.
Hi, Ken. Good morning. Looks like we're ready for another huge event. 大家好，我是环球国际高中的执行校长 Alan。今天呢，我们邀请到了 Ken Withers， 多伦多大学的招生办主任。So Ken, this is like our third year in a row. As always, we have over 100 participants ready to see what U of T is all about. Are we ready to go?
Yes, and thank you, Alan. And I apologize to everybody today because I'm working from my basement in my home. So, and my old version of Zoom's not letting me filter. So everybody can see my basement.
All right. Okay. Looks like a better basement than me, so I'm not complaining. Okay. 好，那我们先开始吧。So Ken, as you know, every year we get tons of questions, but today we're not going to, do all of the questions because that will be way too time consuming. 大家也知道问题太多的话，可能会时间会拖得比较长。我们选择了一些总体的问题，然后之后呢，会给大家一些问答的这个循环。All right. So, Ken, I guess the first question that we all want to know, 大家都想知道的一个问题呢，就是 Ken, why? Right? Why should students choose the University of Toronto?
Well, Alan, that's a great question everybody asks. So there's probably a number of reasons people think about when they think about the University of Toronto. First and foremost is our rankings. And, we're the top university in Canada. We're 18th in the world, consistently in the top 20. That alone attracts people. But even more important than our rankings is our country and our city. Canada is such a welcoming place. We have a stable economy. We have a stable government. We are welcoming. And Toronto itself is probably one of the most diverse cities in the world. More than 50% of the people that make up our great city were born outside of Canada. And when people think about that, that's quite amazing that we have such a diverse city. And for students that want a Toronto experience, but they have different kinds of interests, we have 3 campuses. So students can be right downtown Toronto at our historic St. George campus. They can be 25 kilometers to the east of us on our Scarborough campus, which is much smaller than the St. George campus, but yet has a large green space footprint, the largest of all 3 campuses, as a matter of fact. And we have a campus in Mississauga, a city just to the west of us, about 25 kilometers. And it's a beautiful ring campus. And again, full of nature and much smaller. So students can have their choice of what kind of fit that they would like for themselves for the 4 years that they spend with us. And the nice thing about U of T is we're very flexible. So students can actually attend one campus, but study at another campus for some of their courses. So there's lots of flexibility, lots of choice, lots of options at one of the world's greatest universities.
Okay, wow. I guess I have to translate all of that. Okay, but we will get to all those details more specifically later. 好，那我就给大家先简单翻译一下哈。首先我们感谢Ken 给我们这么详细的解释。那排名大家都知道哈，我们刚才看到的是全世界呢前20名，QS 是前大概40名左右，是很多学生选择多大的主要原因。另外呢，多伦多大学的地理位置也是学生为什么选择的原因之一哈。不光是加拿大是一个很包容的国家，但是多伦多也是一个很多文化的城市。多伦多大学呢有3个不同的校区，一会儿我们就会具体的讨论哈。学生呢可以选择适合自己的校区除了本科这个专业呢，学生有很多不同其他的机会就是读研呢进修不同职业的专修这些课程的愿望哈。有的学生呢也可以在不同的校区上不同的课，所以比如说在市中心也可以去密室或者是士嘉堡的校区无论如何，学生将来在世界各地不同的机构深造的话，由于多伦多大学因为是北美最大的一个研究型大学，所以学生在很多不同专业方向呢，能受到本科课程受到最好的这种学术经验，也会被世界各种地缘的校接受经验会很丰富的。 All right, Ken. So I guess the next part. 我们刚才了解了很多人选择多大哈，那肯定大家问，如果多伦多大这么优秀，想要什么样的学生呢 ？Right? So Ken, now that everybody is curious about the University of Toronto, I guess we should ask them, or maybe you should let us know exactly. Hey, what kind of students does U of T want?
Well, that's another good question, Alan. And I think people would expect a world-class university like U of T to be looking for excellent students. And we really are. So strong academic students. We are really grateful for schools like GEA that prepare their students well for the rigors of a University of Toronto. So I would strongly recommend that students are making sure that they're going to a school that really values academic excellence. But even more important than that these days, there are lots of excellent students. It's about making sure that you're a well-rounded individual, that you're bringing to the table a lot of skill sets beyond just your academic ability, that you're really committed to the community, that you have a lot to offer the university in terms of co-curricular activities. So this makes a very compelling case, and especially because many of our most competitive programs ask for supplemental applications. And in those supplemental applications, they're trying to get at and assess the students' leadership capabilities, their ability to get involved in the community, their ability to really network and bring out the best in others as well as themselves. And those are really important skills on top of top academic skills.
Nice. Okay. All right. So there are a little bit more. Yeah, we did notice a lot more students. In fact, even in the chat box right now, they're curious about what they can do to apply for these different programs. But we'll talk about that later. 首先我先给大家翻译一下哈，毫无疑问呢，多伦多大学肯定是要最优秀的学生啊。多伦多大学和比较优质的合作伙伴一起共同合作呢，但是我们都知道哈，多伦多大学喜欢给学生提供更多的帮助和咨询 ，right? Ken, usually, right? We ask for these students to kind of try their best, but we understand that so many applicants apply to U of T each year, right? Okay. What are the certain numbers looking like? Like what, in the hundreds and thousands, right?
Yeah, last year we had more than 130,000 students apply to the university.
Wow. Okay. So 每年大概有13多万学生能申请啊。So yeah. 我们这很多学生呢都想就是走进这个校园啊，所以呢，如果你比较优秀，能给学校提供很多的这种最优秀的自己啊，那肯定会顺利到多大学习。好，那我们下一个问题呢，我们想好奇一下啊，刚才就是比较很多同学看到了哈，就是我们这个视频里呢，还有Ken老师讨论到了就是不同的校区，那我们问一下这些区别吧。Right, so Ken, we talked about this earlier, and we saw some in the video. But hey, what are some big differences between the 3 U of T campuses? You mentioned the location, but for some of our audience, they might not know what that's all about. So why don't we let them know?
Sure. The first thing to know is that from an academic standpoint, there's really no difference between the 3 campuses. All 3 campuses at the University of Toronto are ranked 18th in the world. So the quality of education, and in fact, when a student graduates from the University of Toronto, we don't distinguish one campus from another. It's a University of Toronto degree. Because people often ask that. They want to know, is it more like the California system where each university is quite distinct? No, it's not. They're all the same. So all 3 campuses offer business, science, social science, and humanities programming. And many of the programs are very similar. But there are distinct programs at each campus that students might really want that campus for that program. Just a couple, there's lots of examples, but a couple of examples might be if you want forensic science, for instance, that's done at Mississauga and it's a world-class program. If you want psychology and you're really interested in mental health psychology and whatnot, that's a program a co-op program that's available only at the Scarborough campus. And in fact, a lot of co-op programs are at Scarborough campus, and that might attract students. Downtown at the St. George campus, there's a number of programs that just don't exist at Scarborough, Mississauga. So students interested in those programs might want to choose the St. George campus. But then there's also the environment itself. Do you want a small campus? Mississauga and Scarborough are smaller than St. George. Do you want a large urban campus where you're right in the middle of the city, and when you walk out of your classroom, you're right in the heart of Toronto? Well, that's really the St. George campus. So there's a lot of options and opportunities for students, but in the end, it's all the University of Toronto.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm the first thing you mentioned, I'm sure everybody's very happy about. So 跟大家简单翻译一下哈，就是刚才呢，我们问了一下 Ken 关于这3个校区的区别。Ken 呢刚才说了，就是虽然3个校区的地理位置有区别，但是呢，3个校区都是世界前18名。所以呢，如果不管你在密西沙加，还是在士嘉堡，还是在市中心，多伦多大学给的文凭是一模一样的，不会区分出来是哪个校区。当然了，这个也是看大家的喜欢什么样的生活环境。比如说在市中心喜欢这种生活，或者是喜欢在郊区，喜欢在一个城市里内的这些不同的地方，肯定有最佳的选择，你可以得到。因为很多学生呢，希望学校规模可能相对小一点或者大一点，沟通机会多，沟通机会可能少。小的社区呢，可能自给自足。这就是为什么很多多大后来有了这密西沙加的士嘉堡校区，让大家体验多伦多不同的环境。3个校区呢都有提供商科、文科、人文、社科这些不同的专业。如果学生对这些专业感兴趣的话呢，他们可以在任何一个校区学习。当然了，有些专业咱们也知道，竞争力比较强。所以网上呢有很多关于3个校区的信息哈，如果大家可以参观一下，或者在网上看一些不同的资料。当然了，有具体的问题，欢迎在问答的时候提。All right, so Ken, let's go to the next one. So 刚才呢，我们跟大家可能看到了这些校园、校区，还有这个环境哈。那可能大家比较好奇学费是怎么样的 ，right? So Ken, I guess the next question, because now everybody wants to know, hey, if all the 3 campuses are the same, are there anything we should know about tuition rates at the University of Toronto?
Sure. So the university has more than 700 programs. So the tuitions are all over the map. Students can expect a tuition rate anywhere from $48,000 a year to $63,000 a year typically. So it just depends on the program. It depends on the campus. It depends on even which college you end up attending if you happen to be a St. George student. So the fees are different. Students are able to go right online and go to the fee calculator and just see how much it would be for their chosen program.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Some of these tuition rates, they are a lot higher than when I was in school. For international students, that's pretty high. But are there any, additional maybe support for students?
Well, yeah, and that's the nice thing about U of T. We're so large. We are giving out next year $80 million in international scholarships to students. So it's not unusual for really good students to earn $25,000 in scholarships that's renewable, or even more. So yeah, I think each student's situation is unique and they should apply. And the nice thing about U of T, the vast majority of our scholarships are awarded when the student is accepted to the university. There's no extra application that they have to complete. There is, however, one flagship program that students that are exceptional should think about, and that's called our Lester B. Pearson Scholarship. And that's a full ride. So we pay everything, tuition, residence, books, everything for a student. And we give out usually around 10 of these, 12 of these a year. Students have to be nominated by their school. So they need to talk to their guidance counselor and go through the process with the university. But those are exceptional students. And so if there's some exceptional students in the audience, and I'm sure there are, they should certainly think about our Pearson Scholarship.
And Ken, there's also some private scholarships around too, right?
Well, there are, and schools like GEA actually are one of our partner schools where they offer scholarships in partnership with the University of Toronto for students that are exceptional. And those scholarships are unique because they do two things, which is really nice for international students. They give scholarships to students who achieve high language facility scores, which is terrific because the better your language in English, the better success you're going to have at a Canadian university for sure. And secondarily, they're also rewarding excellence in academics, which of course at the University of Toronto is the core of what we do.
Okay, thank you, Ken. There's a lot of numbers in there, so I'm going to try my best to translate and hope everybody can keep up. OK， 好，刚才呢，Ken 跟我们说了一下哈，就是多伦多大学国际学生的学费呢范围大概是48000到63000加币左右一年。然后学费具体金额呢，当然看大家的学习的专业哈修多少课程，在哪个校区当然了，可能还有一些额外的，比如说住宿。还有不同的这个课程需要当然了，每个学院的学费也会不一样有一些其他的额外的辅助保险类似的当然了，可以刚才看也说了，可以去网站上看一下，有个专门的这种 tuition rate calculator， 好吧，大家可以就是大概算一下会需要多少另外呢，Ken 也提到了，我们也就是说了一下，就是学生当然了，可以申请大学的奖学金这个呢不光是本地生国际学生是也可以的特别是有一些学校呢跟多伦多大学合作的，比如说像环球国际高中，还有就是一些需要提名的这些不同的奖学金像这种 GA 这个 GP 送这个奖学金呢是学校和大学需要就是共同提名，然后呢给学生入学之后提供的。All right, that was a lot of numbers. I hope everybody kept up there. So let's go to the next part. 好，那大家现在知道了哈，这些学校学费类似还有这些很优秀的这个学生怎么进来，但大家是不是担心会被淘汰呢？或者是为什么学生能在大学很成功呢？对吧？所以我问一下 Ken， 那在多伦多大学怎么才能取得好的成绩呢？ Right, so Ken, now that everybody can get an idea about how to get into UT, we got to think about survival, right? We have to think about how they can succeed while they are at University of Toronto. So Ken, how can students succeed and do well?
There's a number of things that students can do to prepare themselves for the University of Toronto. First of all, going to a good academic school like GEA or a strong school that's not only doing academics, but preparing students for being a good leader and having those kinds of qualities are automatically going to help a student when they arrive at the university. But once they arrive at the university, there's a lot that students can do. First of all, it's networking, getting involved with the student body at whichever campus they decide to get involved in. Students who participate in co-curricular activities are always successful. It is really important that you balance your academic work with other things that you're interested in and develop your skills. That's what university is all about. It's not just about getting that piece of paper. It's growing as an individual. The university also has a ton of resources available to support students who find the transition. All students find a transition from high school to university difficult. That's normal for anybody, no matter how good a student is. So if they need help with writing their papers, just to make sure they're doing it in a way that the university wants it done, we have writing centers. If they're in a science program and need some help with mathematics, we've got those help centers. If they need mental health support, or they find that their health is suffering in any way whatsoever, we can help with that. We have lots of supports at the university, all 3 campuses. So whether it's mental, physical, or academic support that a student needs, we're there for them. But even more importantly is our co-curricular activities as well. So students can feel that they can participate, whether it's in sport, whether it's in student government, whether it's in clubs, whatever students' interest in, we can keep them involved. And I think in the end, it helps round out a student and prepares them for even going beyond university, whether they want to do a professional program or a graduate program or go out into the workforce.
Okay, well, there's a lot of things there I got to translate. Thanks, Ken. 好，那刚才我们问了一下看我们进了多大是如何可以成功的，对吧？毕业的。刚才我们首先听到了呢，就是进入世界就排名前20名的这种大学肯定不是那么容易的，所以呢，多伦多大学呢，他们说了就是希望呢能在很好的这些优秀的这个本地学校比如说一些他们一起合作的一些高中甚至于这个环球国际高中 GEA， 还有其他的一些当地的非常著名的，还有学生英语考得好的学生大学呢，因为一直会鼓励学生用他们最大的这个能力考最好的这种语言成绩他们知道呢学习是很重要的，这成绩是很重要的，但是他们也希望如果他们参加校外这些活动也会对他们的申请，毕竟他们在大学的生活也会有帮助。大学呢，他们相信学生是有能力的并在学习上取得成功的很多学生there's a lot of crazy stories about survival, but more than 90% of students they finish first year, right?
Yeah, our success rate is just over 92% from first to second year.
Nice.
So, but that's not surprising, Alan. When you think about the quality of the students that we accept at the University of Toronto, they're good academic students. They can do the work. We're here to support them in whatever areas that they may feel they need along their journey.
Great, thanks, Ken. So 刚才Ken 提了92%的大一学生都能顺利进入大二当然更高也会进入大三、大四多大并不是每年都会让那么多学生被淘汰，当然也是看从哪个高中或者是哪个学校转过来的当然了，不管去哪里这个过程也不一样的。大学呢，在校园里有很多不同的辅助不光是心理健康这里，还有就是写作还有数学这里能确保学生在大学各个方面得到帮助，也获得成功。Okay, Ken. So there's we heard earlier there's almost over 100,000 that apply. So that must mean there's a good number of students at the U of T, right? How many students do we have?
So if you add all 3 campuses together and you add the undergraduate students and the graduate students together, there's almost 98,000 students at the University of Toronto.
Wow, okay, that has grown substantially since I was there. 好，那刚才说了一下，我们现在多伦多大学呢有大概98000学生，差不多快10万了哈。那这么多学生，我们是不是比较好奇，多伦多大学给这些学生提供的这些有效的这种帮助，这么多学生是不是很困难 ？Right? So Ken, with so many students, how does U of T manage its huge student population? There must be a system, right? Because I noticed somebody asked already, right? What's that college system like?
So actually there's a couple of ways we manage it. First of all, the east and west campuses in Mississauga and Scarborough are much smaller. So those campuses are, by Canadian standards, fairly small, 14,000 students. And so they're pretty manageable, and they'd be like any other medium-sized university in Canada. St. George, though, is much larger. That's correct. And there's, in arts and science alone, there's 30,000 students. So that would be impossible to manage. So what we do is we actually help the students by allowing them to select a undergraduate college to belong to. And we have 7 of them. So students probably have heard of some of them: Victoria College, Trinity College, New College, University College. And so as students pick a college, and they can go online and see, oh, if I'm going to be in arts and science, I need to select one of these colleges. Which one do I kind of like the looks of? Which one sounds like the kind I like? Which residence might I like? Which ones has a meal plan that fits my needs? So they're all a little bit different. Students select them, and then they become affiliated with that college. The nice thing is the colleges are very small. So the largest college at St. George is New College, actually, and it has about 6,000 students. Other colleges like Trinity is very small, with fewer than 3,000 students. So even though you're at a big university with all the resources available to you that only a large university like the University of Toronto can have, you're still in a very small community. Whether you're at Scarborough, Mississauga, 14,000, or you're at New College with 6,000, or Trinity with 3,000, whatever your community at the University of Toronto, it's not nearly as large as the sum of its parts.
Okay, all right. So personally, I was at University College during my undergrad days, and I only chose it because, well, the building, right? The building on most of the U of T photos. Okay, but I honestly probably should have chosen a new college. Okay, they had a much better meal plan. Okay, but that's beside the point. That was almost 15 years ago. All right, so 我给大家简单翻译一下哈。刚才我们问了一下 Ken。多伦多大学有这么多学生，是不是很困难管理呢？对不对啊？但是我们发现了有不同的校园，好吧？这校园呢有大概7个，哎，多伦多大学呢把这些不同的文理学院的学生呢，有好几万学生嘛，分配了7个不同的 college 啊，在主校区，好吧？密室大家和施家堡就没有了啊。不同的这些 college 啊，这个学院不是大专的意思，是安排学生的生活啊，给他们做不同的规划，所以相当于就是在大学里还有不同的这些小独立的大学。啊，其实多伦多大学刚开始的时候都是不同的学院合并在一起变成了多伦多大学，所以当时按照这种传统啊，每个学院呢都有自己的注册办公室啊、财务办公室、学生组织学生这种辅导社交这种咨询服务等，好吧？这刚才看也说到了7个校园里最大的是 New College 啊，刚才我也提到了，我是其实虽然是 University College 的，但是有点后悔没去 New College，因为他们吃的是最好的。All the different locations matter too, right? New College in the west, University of the Central area, so that wasn't too bad. I think it's Victoria up northeast. 大家的可能就是看一下多伦多大学的地图，能发现不同的这些校园也在不同的区域，可能你们的宿舍选到在外面租房什么的，离这些地方的距离也是很重要的啊，特别是上课。如果你是刚才上文科这些课呢，可能中心一点的这种学院可能更好一点啊，因为多伦多大学毕竟规模比较大，所以呢，给不同的学生这个资源是很关键的。如果好几万学生都归一个注册办组的话，那肯定会效率比较低。所以多伦多大学很考虑到这些方面，给学生这些不同的系统。好，可能就是大家现在更清楚了啊，不同学院是这样运作的，好吧？那现在我们问一下哈，我们这么多校园，我们这么多学生，那就是想一想，那是不是竞争力很强呢？是不是有很多不同的机会呢？ Right? So Ken, now that we are very familiar about campuses and the university objectively based, there's got to be a few ways that students can stay competitive. For example, there's got to be more and more co-op opportunities at U of T, right? We know some of the programs, which someone asked earlier in the chat box, at Scarborough and whatnot. Are there any new opportunities currently going on?
So yeah, I think this is becoming more and more of an issue for students and parents. University education is a big investment, and there's a lot more to a university education than getting a job at the end. However, people really want to know that they're gaining the kind of skills that employers value. Employers also graduate programs, professional programs, and that's why we spend a lot of time making sure that students get lots of opportunities. And one thing that we're going to talk about co-op in a minute, but one thing that a lot of people don't understand, we hire literally thousands of students at the University of Toronto, all 3 campuses, in what we call a work-study program. So students can actually apply for a job just like they would for any other job. With a resume, they get an interview, and they're hired by a part of the university. So if they're interested in research, maybe they apply for a lab job. If they're interested in administration, maybe they apply for one of the faculties in administration post. If they like, say, recruitment and the stuff that we do, we hire lots of students as tour guides and whatnot in our office. So they're actually paid a salary, and they're paid hourly, and we make sure that their schedule is around their academics. So it's a great way to earn a little money, but more importantly, get real life job skills they can put on a resume when they graduate. Co-op is different though. Co-op is a more structured program that students, if they're at the Scarborough campus, for instance, they would go and work for a term, come back to school for a term. They do this all throughout the year, so that interestingly, our co-op programs at Scarborough allow students to still graduate in 4 years, which is unique, even though they're getting a year's worth of work experience along the way. And we have a lot of those co-op programs. At the St. George campus, we have something called PEY co-op, Professional Experience Year, where students in business and engineering, computer science, and some of these programs can actually leave the university for up to 16 months and work for a company, and usually from start to finish on a project. And then they come back. Usually this occurs between third and fourth year. So they come back and do their fourth year, graduate, and now they've got substantial work experience. The nice thing about the PEY co-op, often students can earn, even international students can earn enough during the PEY co-op to pay for their fourth year tuition. So that's fantastic.
Those are a lot of exciting projects, things going on. I'm most a little sad that I didn't have this during my time there. Okay, but it's good news for our future applicants. 好，那刚才我们一起讨论了一下这个多伦多大学哈，这些不同的能给学生更多的竞争力这些机会很多家长肯定希望学生呢在毕业之后呢能顺利找到工作。但是其实在多伦多大学呢有很多不同的机会，比如说多伦多大学呢会在学习过程中让学生呢锻炼他们自己这些更多的实战能力哈，使用能力呢可能比如说一些项目呢是一个叫 work study 的 program 这个项目，学生在不同的校区都可以申请在多伦多大学的工作，好吧？比如说刚才 Ken 也提到了in recruitment 就是他这个招生办这里哈，比如说一些当这个校园导游，也有一些学生办公室研究项目实验室不同的这些注册办这里很多这些工作机会呢，能让学生得到更多的使用知识，好吧？学生在学习过程中呢，同时也会跟真正的工作人员一起工作，了解到这个不同的很珍贵的就是很宝贵的工作经验。当然了，工资也会有的哈，就是虽然有每小时的这种薪水也是很重要的另外呢，刚才也有另外一种项目，刚才 Ken 提到了叫 PEY program， 就是 Professional Experience Year 这个呢跟 Co-op 不一样，像 Co-op 呢都是一个系统里专门这种安排的，但是像 PEY 呢是多伦多主校区的一个项目这个 PEY 呢应该是在不同这些工程计算机科学商科这里呢有这种带薪学习机会就是可能是大四或者是大四之前，或者是大二之后有这种机会，就是工作1年，可能像 Co-op， 但是因为是12到16个月嘛，所以很多那种国际学生呢也能去申请这些项目他们给不同这种工作就是跟学到了这些企业不同的运营一起把项目从头到尾结束跟领导们一起工作，其实都能把大3、大4的这些学费都能赚回来学生呢能获得很多这些不同的重要的工作技能，也很多的这种不同的薪水当然了，社交关系也是很关键的当然了，这种机会肯定是一个很不错的这种经历。All right, wow, we are getting through these pretty quick. So Ken, I guess there's always going to be people curious because now I'm being bombarded, with private messages about what to ask you, but most of these stem about.Hey, what can we do? So 咱们问一下 Ken 一起问一下就是如果学生想成功申请到多大进入多大，是不是有什么窍门能被多伦多大学录取 So Ken, all right, so how should students prepare or what should they know about for applying to U of T?
Well, I think the first thing, we've already talked about much of it. I think the first thing students need to do to prepare is to make sure they've gone to a good, solid academic school like GEA, and that the school is really preparing them for the academic rigors of a top university. But on top of that, they really need to also go to a school that's going to support them in some co-curricular activities. They're going to have to, for the most competitive programs, write about their leadership skills, write about what their goals are for the future, how they've worked with other people, how they've been involved in the community. These are lifelong skills that the university wants to see that students are developing at the secondary level so that we can continue to enhance them at university. So making sure that they've really thought about that and prepared. They need to do really well in their grade 11 year. We're looking at marks across grade 11 and grade 12. So students as soon as grade 10 should start preparing to be ready not only academically, but also to complete a supplemental application where they can talk about all the co-curricular activities they've done and how they've been involved in their community and in which ways and how they've been developing their leadership skills. Those are important ways to prepare your application.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ken. So there's actually now even more questions coming in, and I can't answer them all, but let's translate what you have for us. So 刚才 Ken 说到了呢，就是最重要的呢，就是选择好高中啊，因为很多学校呢能为多伦多大学和这种比较优秀的大学呢给学生做好准备啊，比如说环球国际高中呢，就不管是教师的水平啊、教学质量、学术辅导等方面呢，能帮助学生变得更优秀啊。当然，就是多伦多大学刚才我们讨论到的是最想要的学生了啊，就是这种竞争力是很关键的。毕竟刚才我们听到了，大概每年呢10多万的学生来申请多伦多大学。以前呢，Ken 可能提到了不同的这些环球国际高中 GEA 的学生呢，成功被多大录取呢？不光是在学术中保持优秀能力，也在其他方面表现出来很出色。比如说参加一些学生组织啊，经常参加这种校外这种活动啊，比如说一些义工活动啊、慈善活动啊，学院的这个团社和这个比如义工的这些经验也是很重要的啊。不管在哪个学校呢，多伦多大学希望能看到学生能把生活平衡好，不光是学习好，也需要在各种方面展示出来自己的优秀啊。在申请过程中呢，有不同的专业要求，比如说一些文书、这些材料呢，当然呢，他们会体验到这些不同的高中的这个资质啊，还有这是录取中了解学生的非学术背景。Okay, Ken. So I guess we're now heading to the most exciting part, or at least probably the speed round in a way. 我们大家刚才肯定已经有很多不同的同学们已经给我们提供了很多问题哈。我的这个Zoom 这个信息已经快要炸了啊，所以相信大家肯定还有很多不同的问题。那我们到了最终的期间，就是环节呢，就是比较期待的就是一些问题从观众这里，好吧 ？So Ken.Let's get to some of the questions from the audience. I know that we are a little bit strapped for time. And Ken, before we get to these questions, Ken, I believe that we have another exciting event with U of T coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, Alan, that if we don't get to all the questions, for those students that are able, on November 26th, I believe U of T will be showing up at GEA to support you guys in trying to attract even more good quality students to GEA so that they can continue on to the University of Toronto. That's important for us as well. So I don't know that we've set a time for that yet, but students should be looking for that announcement soon.
All right, okay. So 是一个非常棒的信息啊！刚才大家不知道听没听到，就是如果大家有就是很多问题，今天我没有回答到的呢，可以在11月26号亲临环球国际高中现场多伦多大招生办 Ken 他也会在，然后呢就是下午我们会有很多不同这些问题，专门是回答大家的一些不同的疑问和一些比较好奇的关于多伦多大学的事情哈。这个呢是需要大家联系环球小助手报名参加。All right, Ken. So let's get into some of these questions. I guess the first question. Oh well, wow! I have 37 questions. Okay, there's no way we can get through 37 questions. Ken, don't be scared. Okay. So Ken, maybe we'll have time for 10. Is that okay for you?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So 10 questions. The first one. All right. This one I have 12 people ask the same question here. Okay. 12人问这个问题。For applicants in China. Okay. Do they need the 高考 to come to U of T? And if so, any requirements?
If they are not intending to continue their studies in China and only come to Canada, it is possible that they do not require the Gaokao. However, I always recommend students do the Gaokao. It gives them the most possible options to the most possible universities because everybody's admissions policies are a little bit different. And so students can write it. It's not going to hurt them if they write it. We're going to look at their marks and we're going to know the good students out of that. I just think that for the most part, they should be writing that if they're in China. That would be my professional opinion.
Okay, so thanks, Ken. So 刚才 Ken 说了，如果你想下决心来加拿大这边，或者是去国外上学的话，高考还是很重要的啊。但是呢，如果就是真正是申请的话呢，可能就不需要了。但是如果你考的话，肯定对你有帮助。Okay, so I guess that's the best way to put it. Thanks, Ken. All right, the next question, also a very popular thing here, is all right. So, which undergraduate programs at U of T do not accept international students? This doesn't sound right.
That's interesting. So every program at the University of Toronto loves international students and will accept international students. So nobody needs to worry about that. We've got plenty of space for international students in all of our programs.
Okay, I think this is more or less, other schools they tend to be a little closed out. 刚才我们问了 Ken 哪些本科专业呢是不收国际学生的？刚才 Ken 说了。所有的本科都接受，好吧？当然了，有些位置可能少一点，竞争力比较强一点 ，right? So some spots, I mean, some programs are definitely a little bit more competitive. There's less spots, but it doesn't mean they don't accept, right?
That's right.
Yeah, 所以就是有些可能竞争力比较强的位置少，但是不等于不接受哈。Okay, all right, thanks, Ken. All right, the next question we have computer science. There are around 12 questions about computer science, and I'm not going to ask them all, but why don't we clear the air here? It says, most of the questions are about, applications, to this program and other programs at the same time. So can a person or can a student apply to both Rotman Commerce and Computer Science at the St. George campus at the same time?
Well, no, they really can't, because what we allow now is a student to apply to a second program at Arts and Science if they've applied to Rotman or Computer Science. Knowing that those programs are so competitive, then we are giving them another choice. Now, typically a student could submit their application, I suppose, for both programs, but they're in the same boat. They're going to be competing for two programs that are highly competitive at the university. So what we strongly recommend is if they want computer science or they want Rotman, they pick another outside program for us to consider them for. It doesn't mean that they can't come back to Rotman or computer science in future years. It's hard to do that, but a good student who does well at the university absolutely can do that. I think you've even had some personal experience knowing that that's true.
Yeah, when I was in high school, applying Rotman Commerce, it wasn't called Rotman Commerce back then, it was just Commerce at St. George. But I honestly don't remember too much other than my guidance counselor saying, yeah, you got no problem. Just keep going. I'm like, okay. 好，刚才呢，我们看到了一些很多问题关于申请多伦多大学这 Computer Science 还有 Rotman 但是我问的 Ken 呢是关于是不是同时可以申请这个 CS 还有 Rotman Commerce 呢？Ken 说是可以的，因为这两个专业呢是竞争比较强的位置比较少，然后很多学生申请，所以呢就是大家不想就是多伦多大学不想让大家就是光把所有的单都放一个篮子里，对不对？所以呢给大家这个机会。当然了，你也是需要很优秀才能进入这些项目里和这些专业里，所以呢，一定要就是了解虽然是可以申请但是呢，也不要完全依靠这些，好吧？有个 Plan B. All right. So while we're on the subject of computer science, and maybe this goes for engineering as well because somebody asked about this. So they asked about marks. Okay, so I guess what kind of marks? For engineering and computer science, I think they're very different, right?
They are a little bit different. And students have to understand they want a mark. If I get this mark, I get in. With those programs, it doesn't work like that because they have supplemental applications. So students need really good marks for sure. In engineering, I would suggest most programs are in the low 90s. Computer science would be in the high 90s as an average, but they also complete the supplemental application. The university and those programs take that very seriously and weigh it about as heavily as they do the marks. to determine which of these excellent students should get the spots at the university. So again, back to our earlier discussion on how important it is that students develop a well-rounded background so that they can talk about their skills outside of the classroom as much as the academic skills that they have.
Thanks, Ken. I actually forgot to mention. I mean, yes, absolutely. You are on the ball right there. 就是刚才Ken 说的，就是文书啊，申请多伦多大学主校区的工程和电脑科学 CS 文书也是很关键的啊，可能文书跟成绩可能50%-50%这样，好吧？所以光成绩好，文书一般那是不可能的。Someone asked, is there an interview process for computer science?
No, there's not an interview process for computer science. There is for Rotman and for engineering, but there is not for computer science.
Okay. 哎，所以刚才说的是Rockman Commerce 工程是需要面试的，但是 CS 是没有面试的。当然了，文书如果没有面试的话，那文书更关键，所以大家可以考虑。And oh yeah, that's right. And I also forgot to mention the other campuses. How about computer science? And I know that you're from St. George, but could you give maybe the audience some insight about the other campuses, computer science and engineering programs?
Sure. One of the things that I was going to mention as well is that a good strategy for students when they have an area that they are really interested in, computer science is a good example, but it could be in anything, maybe even in biology or psychology or whatever. They're offered at all three campuses, and all three campuses have different admission standards. And it's simply based on supply and demand. They're all the same quality programs, but if more people want to apply to one than the other, then it means it's harder to get in. And so for computer science, there is a supplemental application at Scarborough for the co-op program as well. But at Mississauga right now, there's not a supplemental application. So it's based on marks only. So a student might consider, I can make a choice at Scarborough for computer science, a choice at Mississauga for computer science, a choice at St. George Arts and Science for computer science, plus another option at St. George Arts and Science because they've applied to computer science. They get that secondary choice. So all of a sudden, they've got a lot of applications at the university, and the chances of them being successful for a good student are much greater.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So 刚才大家听到了，其实我们刚才也可能要讨论到，就是你申请多伦多大学这3个校区呢，不同的专业都可以，比如说3个校区的 CS， 或者是2个校区的 CS， 1个校区的生物科学哈，这是都 OK 的。当然了，你们一定要就是先简单看一下啊，到底是否这些校园适合你。Okay, all right. So lots of questions there answered. Okay, so that helps take a little bit of pressure off the computer science part. Okay, so Ken, now we I guess there's a lot of questions about supplementals. Okay, there's people that ask, hey, are they being looked at other than, let's say, what they provide in terms of their marks and extracurriculars? How about stuff like AP, IB, or programs about STEM and I guess all these different other kind of systems? Do they weigh these importantly, or is it just something they consider? I guess the question is, how important is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. People ask that all the time. I'm in a really hard curriculum, whatever they think a hard curriculum is. Will I get extra bonus points for that, or will that help me get in? The straight answer is no, we don't care. We translate all the marks into an Ontario-based mark for us. So all students are treated the same as if they have a OSSD, Ontario Secondary School Diploma Program, which I know is what GEA delivers as well. So that's what we're looking for. And students who do any other kind of curriculum, it has no bearing whatsoever on admissions.
All right, thanks, Ken. Yeah, so it's just that some students go to these school programs, like after school, they get all this extra help, and they hope that gives them an advantage, right? Which is perfectly normal for parents these days to kind of consider. 好吧，刚才大家可能问了一些关于 IB 和 AP 这些啊，但是其实对申请呢 是没有太大的帮助的。当然了，可能对学生的自己的这个成长是有帮助的，但是对申请可能还是看这个成绩和文书，好吧？有 AP 的成绩不等于你会更优秀，那当然了，就是可能自己的这个能力可能会更好一点但是对申请这里有这个优秀体验不出来。All right, so everybody's asking about English. Okay, so does U of T now set an English, I guess, a requirement for its programs like computer science, Rotman, engineering, or even is it usually published in the view books?
Yep, it's all published, and it's the same for every program at the university. So we don't differentiate, oh, you need higher English for computer science than you need for history, for instance. It's all the same. So typically most students do IELTS, to be honest. So for IELTS, no matter what you want to do, as an example, at the University of Toronto, you need a minimum score of 6.5 with no band less than 6. So that's what we're looking for every program. You can also take TOEFL if you want. You can do Duolingo. You can do whatever language facility test we accept, and it's outlined on the website so students can easily see what they require. My strong recommendation, Alan, and this trips up a lot of students, they, in the hopes to get a better language score, they delay taking the test, thinking that they'll get a higher score. But by delaying the test, we don't look at any international students' application until they've fulfilled language facility. So until we get that check off that the language has been done, we don't look at the application, meaning some students, unfortunately, get left out, really good students out of the admissions pool because of that. And we don't differentiate. If you have, say, an 8.0 IELTS, that's no different to us than 6.5. Once you've met our minimum requirements, that's fine. That's all we look at. So students should be applying very early and doing their language facility as soon as they can, hopefully by, like, I'd say December or January at the latest.
All right, great. Thank you, Ken. Yes, that is always one of the things we try to encourage our students. 刚才 Ken 说到了，就是任何的专业哈，英语的这个成绩呢，对吧？比如说，如果是高中这种成绩呢，都会在网站上，还有在这个宣传册里面，他们都会说，像雅思呢，都是6.5平均6.5，不能有单项低于6。虽然你可能就是考到了8分，或者是7.5，雅思哈或者托福有更高的话，其实都无所谓的，因为你先要进这个门槛。Okay, so you need to, like Ken mentioned, 6.5 gets you into that pool early. 刚才也提到了，就是在12月或者11月之前尽量呢就能把这个语言考。如果你是申请下一年的9月份入学的话。或者是如果你现在是10年级的同学，对吧？你可以先去上课或者去考，或者去感觉一下，对吧？自己还差在哪里因为很多学生，不管你学习很优秀或者是你的有很多这种社团这种有参与，还有这个学生组织什么的如果你雅思或者是英语这个要求没有到，那你怎么也得不到 offer 所以呢，就是一定要早点去看一下你的这个英语语言这个情况状态。So there are students that we've heard about. Okay, in fact, as a language business, we've seen students that have upper 90s and they're very involved in extracurriculars, but they just kept putting off IELTS, 就是一直对着拖雅思and they would be less competitive, right? Compared to students with maybe in 80s or high 80s or IELTS with 6.5, right?
Absolutely. Yep, you're right.
All right, so 大家可以就是看到这个雅思英语成绩是多关键的All right, so maybe a couple more questions, okay? Because Ken, I guess we're both a little bit strained for time here. All right, so Ken, I have a student here, actually some students that want to work in certain companies in the future. One is a pharmaceutical company, okay? I guess it's maybe a family kind of thing there, okay? So I guess, are they going to apply for life science or a certain specific program and then go into, let's say, maybe pharmacy, the faculty of pharmacy in their grad studies, or how would that work?
they could do a number of things. So luckily at U of T, you don't have to make that difficult decision right now. You apply for an area of the university, an academic area. So I would recommend that the student would apply, in this case, for life sciences. Once they're in the university, they can decide themselves. Once they see, like we have pharmacology, we have pharmaceutical, like we have so many programs. I think the student themselves would be able to determine pretty quickly in first year, oh, this is the program that I think I really need to do in order to achieve my goals. And then they just go to their academic advisor at their college or at the other campus, Mississauga or Scarborough, if they go there to the registrar's office, and they have an advising appointment. And they just say to the advisor, okay, I really want to specialize in X program, or I want to double major in these two things, or I want to major in this thing and do it 2 minors in these other 2 areas. This university is so flexible that once you're in and you've figured out the ecosystem of the university, you can kind of navigate and do whatever you like to do. And I think that way it will assure the student that they're going to have the exact right fit program for them for their future goals.
Great, thanks, Ken. Yeah， 很多刚才同学问了，就是如果我想去法学院，或者我想学就是药学，或者是我想学什么牙医，那怎么办呢？这些规划就是去多伦多大学呢，因为多伦多大学这里本科呢是这些就是 life science 或者是这些不同的生物学的话呢，就是学。如果你自己能喜欢学这些专业的话呢，到了最后有很多人会帮你策划，帮你规划比如说去这个dentistry school， 或者是去faculty 那种药学或者是法学院如果你的成绩好，如果你的专业你喜欢的话，那都是没问题的，有很多不同的选择，没有固定的要求。All right, so a couple more questions, Ken. Okay, we're getting to the finish line. Okay, everyone's asking about early admissions. I got a bunch of questions related to that. So I guess maybe give us a brief description about, if it's possible for students to be admitted early.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit confused by that statement, what that really means. I don't think students know what it means either. The earliest a student can be admitted to U of T is in January. And so if they apply by the November 7th early deadline, which is right around the corner,
okay,
and they submit all their documents to us, by December, they could get an offer for some programs in January. But if it's a program where there's supplemental applications like computer science, engineering, Rotman Commerce, a co-op program at UTSC, for instance, there's no way that they're going to have that all read and done and ready to send out an offer in January. So those students will wait closer to March for their offers. So yeah, we offer as soon as we've got enough information and the students' marks are high enough. Most of our offers go out based on grade 11 grades, believe it or not. And if the grade 11 grades aren't high enough, then we do look at the grade 12 grades, and international students are able to self-report their grades, and we look at them. So I guess the answer is yes, it's possible to get early, but by early it's January. It's not now.
Great. Thanks, Ken. So yeah, it's one of the things where you actually helped me answer another question, which is I wasn't going to ask it, but that helps me out a little bit because the audience is they're furiously typing in my direct message there. 听到了就是 Ken 老师说的，我们就是虽然有这个 early admission 这个概念，但是最早呢也是1月份。但是这些1月份这些专业给你 admission 呢，就是录取都是那种就是不需要文书的，好吧？比如说可能数学物理、社会科学这些，对不对这些都是看11年级的成绩当然很多同学也问了11年级成绩会看吗 ？Yeah， 他们会看的。Alright， 但是像这种比较重要的需要文书的，比如说 Rotman Commerce 工程 Computer Science 这些呢，可能都是要等面试之后看文书之后对不对？这些不可能在1月份、12月份就看完了，因为你可能12月份才开始提交，他们不可能那么快就会看，都要等到4、5月份，对吧？当然，如果你的成绩不太好，11年级成绩不太好，然后12年级成绩都挺高了，那可能也估计要等到4、5月份了。All right, so yes， 录取11年级成绩是肯定要看的但是如果你是要申请这些比较好的专业的话，那就不光是11年级的成绩了。All right, so last question, and I'm almost don't want to let you go, Ken, but and unfortunately, all good things come to an end here, right? So yeah, let's talk about this. So when can students get their admission or letter of acceptance usually?
So usually we only do conditional offers at the University of Toronto. So they never receive a final like, hey, this is a final, we've looked at everything and you're good. So starting in January, we start offering students conditional acceptance to the university, and that's fine. They get their conditional offer, and all that conditional offer means is they are going to complete their high school. Their grades aren't going to significantly change from the average that they had that we made the offer, and assuming that that's fine, then that offer is valid. If by chance something happens in the summer, we get their high school transcripts, we see that they didn't graduate or something happened, then it's possible that we'd have to rescind the offer. But that rarely happens to U of T students because we're selecting such good students, unless something terribly horrible goes wrong, in which case there may be extenuating circumstances that we could look at. Most of our students, once they receive that conditional offer, they're good to go.
OK, so 刚才大家听到了哈，就是多伦大学呢，一般都是给有条件的录取信当然了，这些有条件录取信呢，大概会就是在4月份之后呢会出，然后呢也会大概给大家一些时间，比如说语言这里还有就是看最后成绩是不是跟报的是一样的当然了也希望呢同学们就是给自己更多的这种选择，然后不光是申请这些比较难一点进的这种专业。So Ken, unfortunately we're out of time, right? But of course, okay, we have another event. That's right, on the 26th that we mentioned. So I just confirmed it. It is going to be at 2 p.m. here, at Global Education Academy. And thank you so much for taking the time today to help everyone know more about U of T. And of course, we'll answer any more specific questions through our little assistant. Okay, and of course, at the event on the 26th. So yeah, thank you, Ken. Have a great weekend. We hope to see you again soon.
Oh, well, we will, Alan. We'll see you on the 26th for sure. And I just wanted to thank you and Global Education Academy for giving U of T the opportunity to speak with all your valued prospective students or students, as the case may be. So thank you as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Sounds good. Okay, Ken. All right, take care. 好，各位观众，请记得在11月26号来环球国际高中参加现场讲座可以把这些信息告诉身边的其他同学朋友。这部分的分享到此结束，我们现在把教育展现场交还给 CC 老师。
好的，谢谢 Alan， 谢谢 Ken。这里是2022环球教育展的直播现场。今天的讲座非常高兴为大家连线了多伦多大学的招生主任 Mr. Kim Weathers， 也感谢 Alan 的对话和翻译。那么希望在11月26日的线下活动中再次与 Ken 见面，也欢迎大家参与和前往。感谢直播间朋友们的光临，欢迎大家在各平台继续与我们互动，联系我们的环球小助手，了解更多大学申请相关信息。温馨提示，下一期我们邀请到了坐落在美丽英属哥伦比亚省，有着加拿大最有价值综合大学美誉的西蒙菲沙大学招生官，与大家分享学校热门专业和申请录取要求等信息。那么期待在北京时间的11月2号周三早上的8点钟，也就是加拿大周三早上8点钟跟大家再次见面。再次谢谢大家的观看，下期讲座我们不见不散，祝大家早安晚安。